The story of the prince and the pauper.
Good morning, everyone. I am Nerlin Barajan, and together with Miss Angeles and Miss Jose, we will be discussing the story of the prince and the pauper. For the learning objectives, at the end of the lesson, the learners should be able to identify the characters in the story of the prince and the pauper. Number two, determine the significant events that happen in the story. And lastly, explain the importance of the symbols used in the novel. The Prince and the Pauper was written by Mark Twain. First, let's get to know the author first. Mark Twain is the pen name of Samuel Langhorne Clemens. He is an American writer, humorist, essayist, entrepreneur, publisher, and lecturer. Aside from The Prince and the Pauper, Mark Twain is best remembered as the author of The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn and The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. He was praised as the greatest humorist the United States has produced, and William Faulkner, which is also an American writer, called him the father of American literature. Mark Twain is widely considered as one of the greatest American writers of all time. So now, let's proceed to the characters which will be discussed by Miss Princess Jose.
Now, let's proceed to the characters of the Prince and the Pauper. First is King Henry VIII, the loving father of Edward Tudors, Prince of Wales, and rulers of England. King Henry VIII is one of the most notorious ruler in England that ever had. Second is Edward Tudor, Prince of Wales, the main character the prince referred to in the title of the novel, having spent his entire life in the confines of the royal apartment, and he has daydreamed about the freedom experience. And one of the protagonists of The Prince and the Pauper and King Henry VIII only son and adored by his father and his sisters. Also, Lady Elizabeth, Edward Tudor's sisters, Lady Elizabeth tries to help Tom Canty, who she also thinks is Edward, navigate life in the palace. Also, Lady Mary, Edward Tudor's sisters, unlike Lady Elizabeth and Lady Jane Grey, Lady Mary is very solemn. Lady Jane Grey, Edward Tudor's cousin, like Lady Elizabeth, Lady Jane tries to help Tom Canty, who they all think is Edward, navigate life in the palace. And also, Lord St. John, one of Edward Tudor's protectors, the Lord Hertford and the Lord St. John, two lords of the realm, is in charge of overseeing the welfare of the Prince and Wales. Lord St. John is one of the men, along with the Earl of Hertford, who is placed in charge of Tom when everyone believes him to be Edward. So now let's proceed to the Canty family. And first is John Canty. John Canty is Tom's poor, abusive, drunken father. John Canty, the unloving and harsh father of Tom Canty. He keeps his son in tow solely so that young Tom can beg money for him. And also Beth Canty and Nan Canty. Beth and Nan is one of Tom's 15-year-old twin sisters. Beth and her twin Nan are portrayed as kind and comforting toward Tom. And also Mrs. Canty, Mother Canty, Tom's mother. Mrs. Canty is depicted as an abused, impoverished woman who tries to protect her children from her husband and mother-in-law's abuse. Also, Grandmother Canty. Grandmother Canty is Tom's paternal grandmother. She is prone to drunkenness and often abused Tom and presumably his sisters as well. And also, Father Andrew. Father Andrew is the kindly priest who instructs the pauper Tom. He teaches him reading, writing, and some Latin. He shares Tom stories of castles and kings and prince, encouraging in Tom's the boy's yearning toward nobility. Tom Canty, one of the protagonists, Tom was born the same day as Edward Tudor, but to a very different lot in life. And Tom Canty, as a proper son of John Canty, he has been brought up in one of the most disreputable parts of London and has spent much time daydreaming about living the life of royalty. So now let's proceed to the other characters of the story. and the family of Hendon. First is Richard Hendon, Miles Hagen, Arthur Hendon's father and a baronet. Richard always loved his youngest son, Hug, the most, even thought everyone else recognized Hug as greedy, selfish, and cruel. And also, Miles Hendon. Miles Hendon is Prince Edward's rescuer. Hendon finds Edward during the celebration of the river pageant presided over by the false prince Tom. He is a good friend of young Edward Tudor, and he represents the best of Englishmen. And also Arthur Hendon. Arthur Hendon does not appear in the story, but is mentioned by Miles Hendon. Arthur Hendon. Arthur is Miles Hendon's older brother. Arthur was betrothed to Edith, whom Miles loved. Arthur loved another woman, but he was unhealthy and died, presumably before he married Edith. With Arthur dead and Miles in exile at his brother Hugh's contrivance, Hughs marries Edith and hugs Hendon Miles' brother, who usurps Miles' rightful place in the family and also marries the woman Miles loves. He pretends not to recognize Miles and he is responsible for Miles and the young prince being in prison. So the story about that is Richard forced Miles to leave the family home and serve in the military when Hag convinces him that Miles intends to run away with his ward. So Lady Edith, Richards wants Edith to marry his oldest son Arthur, but when Arthur dies and Hag forged to better saying Miles is dead, Richard allows Hag to marry Edith. Sir Richard dies a short time later, and when Arthur died, Hag married Edith, and upon Miles' return, Hag orders Edith to pretend she does not know who Miles is. Edith complies only because the abusive Hag has threatened to kill Miles. Following Hag's departure and subsequent death, the novel conclusion informs us that Miles and Edith are finally married. So now let's proceed to the other characters of the story in The Prince of the Pauper. Humphrey Marlowe. Humphrey Marlowe is Prince Edward's weeping boy. Humphrey Marlowe becomes very useful to Tom as he has extensive knowledge of the royal court and its members and practices. Also, Sir Humphrey Marlowe, an old friend of Miles' father, um, Miles hoped that the old fellow will help him regain his rightful position as a recognized member of the Hendon family. So Humphrey Marlowe helped Miles to recognize to his family. Also, the Rappler, the leader of the gang, to whom John Canty brings Edward, who he thinks is his son Tom, when the Canty family flees their home. Also, other part of the gang, Hugo. Hugo is the member of Jan Canty's band of thieves, beggars, and vagabonds, and friend of Jan Canty. He dislikes Edward for his grand assertion, his obvious nobility, and his refusal to do anything, begging and stealing, that will bring money to the group. And also Yokel, a former farmer and part of the Rappler's gang. During Edward Tudor's first night with the gang, he hears Yokel share the story. Hermit. The hermit is a mad old man who takes young Edward in and pretends to be kind to him. However, when he hears that Edward is the son of Henry VIII, a crazy former Catholic priest who tries to kill Edward Tudor, the hermit lives alone in the forest and claims that he is an archangel, but that he should have been Pope. His livelihood and ambitions were destroyed during King Henry VIII's Reformation under the Catholic establishment were dissolved and raided as Henry established the Protestant Church of England. And he seeks to get revenge against Henry by killing Edward. So, nagpapanggap lang siya na Pope and mabait kay Edward. So that's the characters in the Prince and Pauper.
So now let's proceed to the summary of the story. The Prince and the Pauper summary includes the book's 33 chapters, each with its own plot points leading to the characters' resolutions and the book's conclusion. In London during the 1550s, when King Henry VIII ruled over the London, a strange incident took place. So, dito na pinanganak si Tom Canty and si Edward Tudor on the same day. So, sila yung pinakang bida dito sa story. Itong dalawang batang lalaki, very opposite sa isa't isa yung klase ng buhay na meron sila. Sa left side, siya si Edward Tudor. He is the Prince of Wales na anak ni King Henry VIII. Nung pinanganak si Edward Tudor, nagbunyi yung mga tao since part siya ng royal family. So, sinabi dun sa story na matagal na daw iniintay si Edward Tudor. Si Prince Edward, since anak nga siya ni King Henry VIII, nakatira siya sa isang palasyo. Lahat ng gusto niya nakukuha niya, meron siyang magandang kasuotan, nakakain niya lahat ng gusto niya, and in fact, every meal, parang merong papiging. Ganun karami yung pagkain na inihahain sa kanya. In other words, si Edward Tudor, meron siyang marangyang buhay, and mahal na mahal din siya ng kanyang ama since siya rin yung magtutuloy ng legacy na sinimulan ng kanyang ama. On the right side, siya naman si Tom Canty, isa siyang pulube. So, siya yung pauper na tinutukoy, which is isang pulube. Meron siyang ama na mapanakit at abusado. Ang pangalan ng kanyang ama ay si John Canty. So, pinipilit siya palaging mamalimos para merong pagkain or perang madala dun sa tatay. Yung damit naman ni Tom Canty ay gutay-gutay. So, makikita naman dyan na parang pinagtagpi-tagpi na lang since mahirap nga yung buhay nila. And si Tom Canty meron siyang kapatid na kambal, si Nan and si Beth. So itong kapatid niya na to, parang pinupush din nung tatay niya na magnakaw na lang. Kasi kapag nalilimos sila, konti lang yung nagbibigay. Yung iba hindi pa sila binibigyan. Eh kapag nagnakaw sila, parang sure na merong pera or food na magbibigay doon sa tatay nila. Andyan din si Mother Canty, which is yung nanay nila Tom. And itong si Mother Canty, mapagmahal siya. So, every time na sinasaktan siya nung tatay niya, andyan si Mother Canty para protektahan siya. And part din ng family nila yung lola, si Grandmother Canty, na same lang ng ugali kay John Canty, which is yung anak niya, na every time na kapag nalalasing, kung sino man makita, pag-iinitan nila. So, ganun yung lifestyle na meron sila. Dito sa picture na to, makikita yung pagkakatulad nila ni Tom and ni Edward. So, dito they look identical. Same yung features ng mukha nila. Yun nga lang, magkaiba sila ng estado sa buhay. Iba yung family na pinagmulan nila. Pero kung hindi mo sila kilala, aakalain mong kambal sila or related sila. So, dito naman, sa unang picture, makikita yung tatay ni Tom na si John Canty na pinapagalitan siya kasi wala na namang food or pera na naibigay sa kanya. Wala na naman siyang nailimos. So, si John Canty masyadong mababa yung tingin niya kay Tom. Kaya, ayun, hinahayaan niya na lang na magpalaboy-laboy at manghingi or manglimos sa ibang tao. And usually, katulad ng nabanggit ko kanina, kay Tom Canty niya palaging binubuntong yung galit niya kapag wala siyang pera, kapag nakainom siya. Tapos, after niyang pagalitan si Tom, pinaalis niya si Tom para manlimos ulit. Pero, hindi kasi pabor si Tom na palagi siyang nanlilimos. Ayun nga, parang gano'n ang isa doon ng buhay niya. Parang kawawa pa rin siya pag nanlilimos siya. So, ayun, sa pag-alis niya ng bahay nila, nakita niya si Professor Andrew or si Father Andrew, yung nakalagay dyan sa second picture. Si Si Father Andrew, siya yung palaging nagko-comfort kay Tom. Si Father Andrew rin yung nagtuturo kay Tom na magbasa, ini-encourage niya talagang magbasa, and in fact, nagdadala ng mga libro si Father Andrew kay Tom para basahin niya. Si Father Andrew, tinuturuan din si Tom ng mga simpleng Latin words, tinuturuan din siyang sumulat, and ayun, nung nakita ni Tom si Father Andrew, nag-usap sila. Sinabi ni Tom kay Father Andrew lahat ng nangyari sa kanya, yung hinanakit niya ng unfair daw, and ayaw niya sa trato ng papa niya sa kanya. And ang sabi naman ni Father Andrew na we can choose to be anybody we want to be. Tapos binigyan niya ng dalawang options si Tom. Sabi niya, who would you rather be? A pauper or a greedy, dishonest man? Dun sa tanong na yun ni Father Andrew, mas pinili ni Tom na maging honest man kahit na pulubi. Kaya nga 'di ba ayaw niyang magnakaw. Pagtapos naman ng usapan na yon ni Tom tsaka ni Father Andrew, naglakad-lakad si Tom hanggang sa makarating siya sa palasyo, sa isang malaking palasyo, kung saan nakatira si King Henry VIII at ang kanyang anak na si Prince Edward. Ayun, pinagmamasdan niya yung palasyo, tapos hindi maalis sa mukha ni Tom yung pagka-amaze dun sa lugar. Kasi ngayon lang siya nakakita ng ganun. Nasanay siya dun sa lugar nila na hindi naman ganun kagandahan yung lugar since mahirap nga sila. Habang pinagmamasdan ni Tom yung palasyo, unti-unti siyang, hindi niya nare-realize na unti-unti siyang lumalapit na dun sa palasyo. And naisip niya na sana meron din siyang royal life. So, ayun, nakita si Tom ng mga kawal o soldiers na nagbabantay doon sa labas ng palasyo. Tapos, agad-agad siyang pinataboy o pinalabas. Tapos, nung mga oras na yun, dali-dali lumabas si Prince Edward kasi narinig niya yung komosyon na nangyayari sa labas. Tapos yun, at the end, pinatuloy ni Prince Edward si Tom doon sa palasyo. Doon sa loob ng palasyo, maayos yung trato ni Prince Edward kay Tom. So, ayun, tinanong niya yung pangalan ni Tom, tapos nag-share sila ng buhay nila. Yung family members nila, nag-share sila. Tapos, dun sa loob ng palasyo, pinakain ng masarap na pagkain si Tom. So, nung nakita niya yung ganung karaming pagkain, tapos siya lang yung bisita, nagulat siya kasi sobrang daming nakalagay dun sa hapagkainan nila. Di ba palaging gutom si Tom? Tsaka, since mahirap nga sila, limited na pagkain lang yung nakakain niya. Tapos, dun sa loob ng palasyo, hindi pa rin maalis sa mukha ni Tom yung pagkamangha. Tapos hanggang sa dumating sa point na inoffer ni Prince Edward na magpalit daw sila ng kasuotan. Nang makapagpalit na sila ng damit, napansin nila na magkamukha sila. Ang nakapansin talaga nun si Prince Edward. Sinabi niya na same daw sila ng eyes, same sila ng hair, ng nose, and same din yung boses and yung manner nila. Pero syempre si Tom parang hindi siya gano'n na uma-agree kay Prince Edward. Kasi nga, syempre, hamak na pulubi lang siya, tapos parang i-compare yung features ng mukha niya sa isang prinsipe. Tapos, sinabi agad ni Tom na magpalit na daw sila ng damit. Pero, parang gustong itest ni Edward yung mga kawal, kung mamumukaan ba siya. So, binalak na ni Edward na lumabas, pero bago siya lumabas, may kinuha siya dun sa parang locker na something. So, kinuha niya dun sa locker and, ayun, lumabas na siya. Paglabas niya ng palasyo, hindi siya napansin ng mga kawal. Tapos, nung pagbalik niya, hindi na siya hinayaang bumalik ng mga kawal. Ayun, since, di ba kanina pinag-initan na siya, since nasa katauhan na siya ni Tom, since pulubi siya, ayun na siyang papasukan ulit dun sa palasyo. Tapos, sinabi ni Edward na parang humanda kayo, ako yung prinsipe ng Wales, ganyan. pinagbuhatan kasi siya ng kamay nung pagpasok niya, bigla siyang tinaboy papalabas. Tapos yun, mananagot sila sa ginawa nila kay Edward kasi first time niyang na-experience yung ganun. Tapos ayun, hindi na nakabalik sa loob ng palasyo si Edward. Naglakad na siya papalayo. Tapos, na-realize ni Prince Edward na tama nga si Tom. Kasi nag-usap sila noon sa palasyo bago siya lumabas na nakadepende sa suot ng isang tao kung paano ba siya itrato ng ibang tao. Doon sa paglabas ni Prince Edward, doon na nag-start yung trouble sa buhay niya. Doon sa paglabas niya na yon, doon niya na-realize na iba pala yung buhay ng tao sa labas ng palasyo. Yung mga problema or yung reality na nangyayari talaga sa buhay ng tao outside. Habang naglalakad-lakad, nakita ni Prince Edward yung kinakwento ni Tom na mga kalaro niya. Yung mga kalaro niya, nag-espa-espadahan sila, na naglalaro sila ng masaya. Tapos, since nga suot-suot ni Prince Edward yung damit ni Tom, akala ng mga kaibigan niya, siya si Tom. So, nilapitan siya ng mga kaibigan niya, sinabi na yung tatay niya ay galit na galit sa kanya, huwag siya magpapakita sa tatay niya. Pero, dun sa paglalakad-lakad nito, ni Prince Edward, nakita siya ng tatay niya. And, ayun, balak na namang bugbugin, ganyan. And doon sa pag-aaway nilang yun, doon niya nakilala si Miles Hendon. Miles Hendon, siya yung naging kaibigan or yung naging protector ni Prince Edward sa paglabas niya sa palasyo. Ang daming hindi magandang nangyari kay Prince Edward sa paglabas niya sa palasyo. Andyan yung nasalo siya sa kung saan saang trouble. Andyan yung na-detain siya kasi inakusahan siyang nagnakaw ng baboy. Eh nung time na yun, nakaupo lang sa gilid si Prince Edward. Tapos yung magnanakaw, bigla na lang binigay sa kanya yung baboy. Sabay takbo. Tapos, yung may-ari ng baboy, ayun nga, hinahabol yung magnanakaw and nakita niya na si Prince Edward yung may hawak ng baboy. Kaya, dinala siya sa kulungan. Tapos yun, sinabi na siya yung nagnakaw ng baboy. Doon naman sa palasyo kung saan nandun si Tom Canty, nangangamba siya sa kung ano na bang nangyayari kay Prince Edward. Tapos, tinry niyang sabihin dun sa mga tao na nandoon, including dun sa tatay niya, which is si King Henry VIII, na hindi talaga siya yung totoong prinsipe. Yung prinsipe ay nasa labas. Kumbaga, pulubi lang siya, nagpalit lang sila ng damit. Ayun nga, kinuwento niya yung nangyari. Pero at the end, hindi siya pinaniwalaan nung mga taong doon, na nandoon. Parang iniisip lang nila na may problema itong batang to, o baka meron lang something sa memory niya, kaya hindi siya pinaniwalaan. Gusto ni Tom na makabalik na si Prince Edward sa palasyo pero wala siyang magawa. Ang ginawa niya dun sa loob ng palasyo, nag-prepare siya since malaki nga yung responsibility na maiaatas sa kanya pag dumating yung panahon. Ayun, nag-prepare siya. Doon sa loob ng palasyo, naging kaibigan ni Tom Canty si Humphrey Marlowe, which is a young boy na nakasundo niya rin kinalaunan. Tapos yun, nagamit lahat ni Tom Canty yung mga tinuro sa kanya ni Father Andrew. Yung, ayun nga, diba, tinuruan siya ng mga Latin words, tinuruan siyang magbasa, tinuruan siyang magsulat, and lahat ng yun nagamit niya doon sa loob ng palasyo. On the other hand, si Prince Edward naman, ayun, na-detain si Prince Edward since inakusahan nga siya yung nagnakaw. Tapos doon sa loob ng piitan, sinasabi niya doon sa mga tao rin nandoon na siya siya yung anak ni King Henry VIII, siya yung Prince of Wales, magiging hari rin siya. Pero ayun, hindi siya pinaniniwalaan. Tanging si Miles Hendon lang yung naniniwala sa kanya. Doon din sa loob ng piitan, nalaman ni Prince Edward na patay na yung tatay niya, which is si King Henry VIII. Tapos yun, nalungkot siya doon. Siyempre, din niya nakita yung tatay niya na namatay. Tapos, alam niyang kailangan na yung tulong niya ng kinabibilangan niyang society. Doon naman sa loob ng palasyo, dumating na nga yung time na sobrang nanghina si King Henry VIII. Tapos, ayun, namatay siya. mabalik tayo sa palasyo. Right after mamatay ni King Henry VIII, pinagplanuhan agad doon na kailangan na agad magkaroon ng seremonya para si Prince Edward, which is si Tom na nasa palasyo, hirangin na agad as a new king. Ang nangyari naman kay Prince Edward, very eager na kasi siyang makabalik sa palasyo. Since, ayun nga, nalaman niya pa na namatay yung tatay niya. Tapos, kinalaunan, nakalaya rin siya sa kulungan, kasama rin si Miles Hendon na naging kaibigan niya doon sa labas ng palasyo. Tapos, right after makalabas ni Prince Edward, dumiretso agad siya doon sa palasyo. Tapos, ayun na, nagaganap na doon yung seremonya. Doon sa seremonyang yun, nung hihirangin na si Tom Canty, which is nasa katauhan na siya ni Prince Edward na bagong hari, ayaw ni Tom Canty. Kasi inaantay niya pa rin talagang si Prince Edward na makabalik doon sa palasyo kasi hindi naman talaga siya yung totoong Prince Edward. Tapos, gumawa ng way si Prince Edward na makapasok. Nung hihirangin ng hari si Tom Canty, biglang nagsalita ng malakas si Prince Edward na sinabi niyang siya talaga yung totoong Prince Edward. Tapos, yung mga kawal doon, hinawakan na siya kasi nagugulo siya sa seremonya eh. Tapos yun, sabi rin nung magpapataw ng corona sa kanya or magbibigay ng title sa kanya, na ituloy yung seremonya. Pero si Tom Canty, pinatigil niya yung seremonya at sinabing si Prince Edward talaga yung totoong Prince Edward, yung suot-suot yung damit niya, yung pumasok na gusto-gusin, siya talaga yung totoong Prince Edward. Tapos, doon napatunayan ni Prince Edward na tunay talagang kaibigan si Tom Canty. Kasi pwede niya namang sabihin na siya yung totoong Prince Edward, na impostor lang yung taong yun, na nanggugulo lang yung taong yun. Kasi siya naman talaga yung paniniwalaan eh. Pwedeng bumalik yung buhay ni Tom Canty sa pagiging pulubi kapag inamin niya na hindi talaga siya si Tom Canty. Pero hindi niya ginawa yun kasi, di ba, nung pinapili nga siya ni Father Andrew, mas gusto niya daw maging honest man na pulubi. At tuluyan nang nakabalik si Prince Edward sa palasyo, sa kanyang trono rin. Siya na rin yung hinirang na bagong hari. Tapos si Tom Canty naman, masayang-masaya siyang pumunta dun sa kapatid niya, tsaka sa nanay niya. Tapos kinuwento niya lahat ng nangyari sa kanya. Sa lahat ng injustices na nasaksihan ni Prince Edward sa labas ng palasyo, itinama niya lahat ng yun during his reign. Tapos, si Miles Hendon tsaka si John Canty, sila yung naging favorite person ni King Edward. Tapos, ayun, sa pamumuno ni King Edward, naging maayos yung lugar nila and naging maiksi lang din yung pamumuno niya kasi namatay rin siya kaagad. Tapos, si Tom Canty naman, he lived to be a very old man and a handsome man. At dito nagtatapos ang summary ng The Prince and the Pauper.
Good day, everyone. I'm Rosemary L. Angeles, and I'm going to discuss to you the symbols and the analysis of the story in The Prince and the Pauper. So first, we have three main symbols used in the story. So first one is the Great Seal of the England, clothing of the characters, and lastly, the Oval Court. So in The Prince and the Pauper, Mark Twain uses these three. So first, we have Great Seal of England, which it symbolizes the king's authority. So it was used as a mold for wax seals on a document that is approved by the king. So in the story, the seal becomes the object wherein si Edward Tudor, nung bumalik siya sa palace, ito yung pinakita niyang proof na he is a king. And with that, na-recognize siya ng mga guard sa palace. Kasi itong Seal of Great England, ito ay talagang nasa king lang and sa mismo may power or authority na person sa loob ng palace. So, kaya mas na-recognize siya agad ng mga guards kasi meron siya nito. And it symbolizes his authority as a king in the England. So, for the next one, we have the clothing of the characters. It symbolizes the social class divisions wherein si King Edward Tudor and si Tom Canty, siya yung poor person dito. So, in the world of The Prince and the Pauper, people are treated very differently depending on their social status and particularly sa kanilang clothes. They were as markers of that status. So, regardless
of their inner character or identity. So when Edward Tudor, Prince of the Wales, and heir to the English throne, swapped clothes with a young beggar. Ito si Tom Canty. So the boys stand in front of a mirror and they are stunned to realize that they have identical features. Pero as the way of life nila is dun na sila magkakaiba. So si Tom Canty, he is the poor living one, while the Edward Tudor, he is the king and he has a king's authority and the power in the story. And for the last symbol, we have the Opal Court. In The Prince and the Pauper by Mark Twain, Opal Court is a reserve of the poor families in London. So it is described as a filthy place with dilapidated houses located in a foul little pocket called Pudding Lane. And also in the chapter 3 of the story in The Prince and the Pauper, Tom Canty, siya yung pauper, siya yung poor sa story, tells Prince Edward about his life in the Opal Court. He mentions that he goes to see performing monkeys, use cudgels, duel with other boys, races and dances around the maypole for fun. So dito naging makabuluhan yung buhay ni Tom Canty sa lugar na to wherein dito rin nakatira yung mga kapwa niya mahihirap sa ano na to, sa lugar na to. And dito naganap yung mga masasayang bagay na nagawa niya sa buhay niya na na-share niya kay Edward Tudor, the King of England and the Prince of Wales. So now we are here in the analysis of the story, The Prince and the Pauper. So these are the four highlighted ideas in the analysis of it. So first, we have the habits of the society in The Prince and the Pauper's world. Second, deep-rooted inequalities toward lower society that is depicted in the novel. And the third one, portrayals of social wrongs in the novel world and the real life. And lastly, inherent sufferings of lower class caused by the richest people. Habits of the society in The Prince and the Pauper's World. So in the novel, discrimination is described by the upper class towards to the lower class. So, poor versus rich. So, for example, nung nagkita si Edward Tudor and Tom Canty, they both exchanged clothes and separated in palace. So, si Edward Tudor, he dressed as a beggar and he was harassed by his soldier and um, he is also belittled by his soldier. So, he was mistreated and he was ridiculed by it. While si Tom Canty, siya yung nag-dress as a king. So, even though he is not a king, but just a poor person. So, sabi sa Prince and the Pauper, the society treats us or judge us based on our appearances, based on our looks, based on how we dress, like the two characters portray in this story. So, for example, sa social media, no, nakakita tayo ng mga taong maiikli magdamit, makakapal mag-makeup, pula buhok. So, nagkakaroon ng discrimination, stereotyping sa kanila based on how we see them and how they portray itself. So, parang ganun yung sinasabi dito sa Prince and the Pauper. The people in the society judge the person based on their appearances. And this is a bad habit of judging kasi yung main background reason why that person portrays is hindi pa natin masyado na-examine. That is why it is bad habit of judging. And also, sabi dito, one's wealth affects one's life. For example, powerful ang mga rich persons. So, they affect the poor people in the society. So, nandiyan yung poor versus rich, the idea of it. So, nagkakaroon din ng hindi balanced na treatment based on the habits nga ng people in the society on how they judge and face the people in the poor society. So the point is the people from the novel who have lots of assets with high positions, high income, they usually do various things they want. But the people who is poor are deprived, have little income, and they cannot do what they want. So kaya one's wealth affects one's life. So dito nagkakaroon ng kumbaga relation ng isang individual based on their wealth when it comes to finances and their ability to sustain their lives. So next, deep-rooted inequalities towards lower society depicted in the novel. So in the society that we live in, wealth is distributed unequally towards people. So kaya diyan papasok yung class membership wherein hindi naman kagad ang isang individual ay pinanganak ng mayaman or rekta ng mayaman kasi through growth and through hard worship, doon natin nakakamit yung sustainable life wherein social stratification which is based on people's wealth is an enduring part of the society wherein that society is experiencing right now same as in the past, and also like some inequalities and discriminations that are depicted in the Prince and the Pauper. First things first is the place that they live is different. Kasi si Tom Canty, nakatira siya sa mahirap na lugar, and si King Edward Tudor, nakatira siya sa palace. So, the place they live is very different kasi yung isa nasa lugar ng mga mahihirap, and si Tom Canty naman ay si King Edward Tudor, siya yung nasa mayamang part, and talagang napakasosyal nung buhay niya ron kasi nga he is the king, and and both they do not live in the same area. So basically Tom Canty are discriminated because of it kasi para siyang nasa lugar ng mga masusukal, so mahihirap talaga na tao yung mga kasama niya. So the lower class lives in dirty place at the edge of the town, whereas yung higher ranks naman they live in a much cozier area. So, however, people should not mistreat the lower ranks because they live in a secluded and dirtier area. So, in the story, there is also an idea wherein clothing makes the man, and it is depicted wherein the two main characters, si Tom and Edward, the moment they exchanged their clothes, Tom went to the palace and he is guided by the prince. Then the two boys went to the Prince Edward's chamber and stood side by side in front of a huge mirror wherein they first stared at each other, nagtinginan sila sa isa't isa, and knowingly that they resemble each other kasi nagpalit na sila ng damit, and kumbaga nag-switch sila ng katauhan in that case na parang mag-act si King Edward Tudor ng magiging siya si Tom Canty. So may experience niya yung poor life, poor living. And si Tom Canty, may experience niya naman yung pagiging king ni King Edward Tudor. So finally, they perceived the prince. So he realizes shockingly that they have both similar appearances. But yun nga, magkaiba lang sila ng damit. And after that, they both exchanged their clothes and they got split up in the palace. Wherein si Tom, he is still wearing the clothing by the prince. So he was mistaken for a beggar and got cast out of his palace onto London streets. And he is mocked, belittled, and even abused by his soldier whenever he tried to explain to them that he is indeed the prince. Kasi nga si King Edward, palit siya ng katauhan. Kumbaga naging si Tom Canty siya. So kaya siya namak ng mga soldier niya sa palace kasi nga hindi siya mukhang king. Hindi siya talaga yung itsura niya king kasi nga he looks like a beggar. So kaya doon siya na mistreat ng mga soldier niya kahit anong sabi niya pa ng he is a king. And ayan, people are treating them differently without knowing their factual background. So ayun nga. And it made Edward knew about the dark reality of life outside of his safe domain, doon nga sa palace niya. Being in the lower class in the society is hard, mostly when lower class people are being neglected by the society and poorly treated by the upper ranks. So, many people who live in extreme poverty are often also the victims of the discrimination that are happening in the Prince and the Pauper, and also the inequality treatments, despite the importance of their rights as a human. So in that point, we know that they will treat people from the lower class badly. Kasi nga, nung si King Edward Tudor na yung nakaranas ng ganitong style, the bad treatments, inequalities, doon na na-realize niya na hindi maganda yung nararanasan ng mga lower rank people outside of his domain. So, nakaharas, na belittled ng ibang tao, and just like what happened to Tom, kasi si Tom talaga yung pinaka-beggar dito. Kumbaga nagpalit lang sila ng tauhan ni King Edward Tudor. So, when he first came to the castle, so the guard of the castle treated him very badly and even about to beat him up had not Prince Edward came to rescue him. Kasi nga si Tom Canty, kumbaga, ano pa lang siya, nawa-wonder pa siya kung paano ba maging king, kaya medyo masaya siya nung nasuot niya yung clothes ni King Edward Tudor. Kasi hindi niya ma-feel or hindi niya ma-explain kung anong na-feel niya kasi nga nakasuot na siya ng prince clothes. And that is why many people who live in poverty, in extreme poverty, are often also become victims, and they are basically experiencing and suffering the discrimination and inequality treatments. So, kaya nga yung itong two characters na to, they both experience the same when it comes to the status of the poor people. Kasi si King Edward Tudor, doon niya na-realize na other people in the society treated the poor or the lower ranks badly. And ayun, siya mismo nakaranas nun na naiintindihan niya na ngayon kung anong nararanasan ni Tom Canty sa society na kinabibilangan niya. Portrayals of social ranks in the novel world and real life. So, dito na papasok yung idea ng high economic people versus low economic people, and it is based on their status quo. And according to the readings that I have read, high economic people are the one who owns all companies, big industries, big shops, and other businesses that makes their life cozier, easier, and brighter. Meanwhile, the low economic people, they are the people who are so hardworking, and they are also the employees of the high economic people. This is how the bosses can easily control the workers by having the full hand insurance guarantee for the poor. So the poor would not do anything but accept and obey all the things that their employers wish, even when they want to overwork severely. So the poor people would do anything anyway due to the monthly salary maintenance and under threat of employment termination. So rich people also they win in all occupation which benefit themselves in very first beginning. So for instance, being politicians would always win in the election because they can buy anything to smooth their way to be incumbents on the top. So the high people or the high economic people can do many things. So they can buy good things such as social campaigns in every petty village by giving them domestic primary needs and also scholarships. Kumbaga, doon nila ginagawa yung mga tactics nila para lang makuha yung loob ng mga poor people kasi nga they are in need. So in that idea, makukuha na nila yung kumbaga support ng mga poor people kapag ka maibibigay silang mga kailangan din ng mga taong iyon. So ayan. And in the novel, those problems above that happened in the status quo are shown similarly. There are several interpretations from the Mark Twain, which can be assumed significantly on how social wrongs in the novel also happens in the real life. So, example, the author would like to glorify to the world how discriminative the place we are living right now. So, di ba, nakakaranas tayo or alam naman natin na totoong nangyayari yung mga ganitong bagay like the past election, no? So, may mga ginagawa 'tong mga people, ang mga kumbaga yung mga nangangampanya na 'to ng mga ways na talagang visible naman sa kwento ng The Prince and the Pauper, like pagbibigay ng mga ayuda or what. So, talagang, it is discriminatively place that we are living right now. Like yung mga mahihirap, mga nakikita nating badyaw 'no, na tao. So, kumbaga they are also discriminated sa mga iba pang mga nakakita sa kanila na nasasabihan silang salot sa lipunan, mga walang hambag sa lipunan. That is why our place is um, discriminative. So, yung mga taong nakapabilang dito, talagang nakakaranas sila ng sufferings, discrimination based on their um, status in life. And also, for instance, si Tom, due to his poor-looking appearance, no, na ano siya, na nasaktan siya, na-beat siya ng mga soldier ni Edward Tudor, no? Base pa lang sa appearance niya kasi nakatira siya sa mga duming lugar, sa masukan na lugar, and yung itsura niya, kumbaga parang pinandidirihan siya ng mga yun. Kaya nakuha ng mga soldier na yun, nasaktan si Tom Canty, not knowing his factual background. So, it is never changing forever, but some of us might not realize it anyway. So, the author perhaps intended to criticize that the government, for lack of handling the poverty issues and prosperity prosperity plan. So which we can see where they live is not equal. And also, secondly, perhaps the author is also just between or just wanted to show how the real world works and how normal is it to have such imbalances of treatments. So between the poor and rich, no? So that there would always be check and balance mechanism is still to have harmony and mutual synergy of all classes and to make people more motivated. Kasi dito, kapag mahirap ka, marami kang sufferings na nararanasan, while kapag mayaman ka, parang easy-easy na lang sa'yo ang buhay kasi kaya mong bilhin ang mga gusto mo, kaya mo makipag-top up sa iba pang mga mayayamang may business. So, kumbaga, napaka-smooth lang ng buhay ng mga mayayamang tao. And kapag mahirap ka talaga, marami kang struggles, challenges na mararanasan. That is why there is a imbalance of treatment sa mga tao in that society, in the Prince and the Pauper story. Also, lastly, the author wants to highlight all the wealthy families' privileges by showing the poor neighborhood. So, the moral value would be more about to respect and honor for the low-income family. So, ayun yung mas gustong i-portray or gustong i-highlight ni Mark Twain sa kanyang novel na Prince and the Pauper. So for the last, inherent sufferings of lower class caused by the richest people. So there is a social level that is visible between the rich and the poor people in the society. So there is a class system in the United Kingdom that separates the rich and the poor people. So it is still in existence. Also, it is related to the novel The Prince and the Pauper, where there are social classes in their social life. This is reflected to the life of Edward Tudor, who is a prince of England. And he is prospective prince of the British Kingdom, which means he was born with a very wealthy family condition because his father is a king of England. Also, he can get whatever he wants. Kasi nga, kumbaga siya yung pinanganak ng may gintong kutsara. So, and he also, he can also get whatever he wants. And he does not know about the poor people's situation outside of his castle. Kasi nga, nakatira lang siya sa mayamang pamilya and buhay prinsipe lang siya. So, sa kabilang banda, si Tom Canty naman, he is a poor child born with a low-income family and far from luxury and comfort. So the backgrounds of the two families are very different. Kasi nga, based pa lang dun sa status system nila or status quo, sa ranking nila, and sa place kung saan sila nakatira. Magkaiba na talaga silang dalawa. So, si Edward, Edward's parents are royalty and then married and became the British royal family. Also with dignity. Whereas, si Tom naman, yung family niya is a part of poor citizen, which his father is a thief and drunkard and also rude to his family. That is why Tom suffers many things in his life. Sometimes he orders Tom to steal and beg on the streets, while his mother and twin sister are opposites to his father. That is why Tom Canty is very sad in his life. Kasi nararanasan niya yung mga ganitong buhay, no? While si Edward Tudor, paisi-isi lang, smooth lang ang buhay niya kasi nga, nakatira siya sa palace. And his family background is very royal. And also, yun na nga, they are patient and kind. And the last is the grandmother of Tom. It is also a drunkard and a beggar. Kumbaga, sa profile pa lang, family profile ni Tom Canty, talagang nalulugmok na sila sa mahirap na buhay. And yan na. His family members are very messy. So they live nga sa kumbaga land lane or mud lane, as I mentioned a while ago. So the differences between the rich and the poor people are so visible in the story. So the example is that a rich person can quickly get whatever he wants. They live in a luxurious and a full of comfort, yung mga mayayaman, while the poor people have to struggle very hard to have enough actions or to have enough basic needs in the form of food that they don't necessarily get every time or daily. Kumbaga, para makuha nila yung mga ganitong bagay, makakain sila ng masarap na pagkain, makakain sila ng 3 times a day, kailangan nilang makaranas or mag-take ng actions na talagang mahirap para sa kanila kasi hindi ganun kadali sa kanilang makuha ang mga ganitong bagay due to their backgrounds. And they are also considered in a low-income family. So, also, during the reign of King Henry VIII, many men were the landowners, no? And they are expected rent payments. It was also inversely that proportional to the lower people's lives. That, in other words, it is far from a life full of wealth. So, ayan. So, the rich are getting richer because they have increasing assets, and ayun, pwede sila makipag-top ups or makipag-partner sa mga kapwa din nilang mayaman. Kaya, mabilis lang silang yumaman kasi nga, they have different alliances na parang naka-base din sa kanilang, kumbaga karank lang din nila. Kaya sila, yung mga mayayaman, lalong yumayaman. And due to their assets. For example, while the poor are getting poorer because they are oppressed by the rich, there are also regulations that when criticizing the king either verbally or writing, so it will be considered high treason. So this is considered to the limit the people's income from the country itself, and the punishment imposed is also moderately severe. So another example dito, yung crime that occurs sa Prince and the Pauper. Diba, pinagnanakaw si Tom Canty na kanyang tatay. So, and he is also tasked to beg on the streets. Kaya nagkaroon ng crime dito kasi nasasaktan din siya ng magulang niya. Ganon. So, the crimes occurs in the novel is committed by John Canty, yung tatay nga ni Tom Canty, wherein Tom Canty's father, because of his greediness, it is known that it is known that greed has been defined as one of the factors that makes someone commits criminal acts. And just like John Canty, likes to steal and doesn't even hesitate to kill people he wants to steal and even forces. So Tom is to commit thievery because of his greediness. So kumbaga, dahil sa tatay ni Tom Canty, nagagawa niya yung mga ganitong bagay kasi nga greedy ang kanyang ama. And so the paradigm of a poor person who often commits a crime because of their basic needs, making a living is full and often encountered, and also making other people have a lower class view. So these things are certainly not done by the majority of the poor or the lower class because of many of them are also trying hard to make it a living better and far from a crime. 'Di ba may mga kilala rin naman tayo sa totoong buhay na mahirap lang sila pero hindi sila gumagawa ng mga ganyang bagay kasi nga gusto nilang paghirapan ng lahat and then gusto nilang maging balance sa kapwa nila tao. And kabaliktaran siya ni John Canty. That is why Tom Canty suffers talaga sa kanyang family and its family background as well. That is why meron ditong poor people are often viewed as an inferior in worth and dignity to the wealthy of the people. And it does not mean that yung mga lower class people, they deserve to be looked down upon because they also have the same dignity and worth as other human beings. And also the crimes that occur are the mostly carried by the both upper and the lower class. For example, 'di ba, yung mga soldier ni Edward. So crime na yung ginagawa nila kasi sinasaktan nila yung mga mahihirap, pinandidirihan nila and just like what happened to Edward Tudor na he was belittled and harassed by his own soldier kung saan hindi naging maayos yung pagtrato sa kanya based on his appearance. And also, dito si Tom Canty, no? Muntik na rin siyang saktan sa palasyo kasi nga parang na-wonder siya kung paano siya maging mag-act sa king. And kumbaga dito nako-confuse na yung mga tao sa palasyo na parang may mali. Parang hindi si Edward Tudor yung nasa palasyo. Which is talagang hindi naman kasi nag-switch na sila ni Tom Canty. And also, yun na nga, still the upper class can cover and overcome this because of the influence of the rich and powerful people combined with assurances that accused came from a right family where they can save many villains who have done the crimes during the pardoning process. So meanwhile, the lower class cannot cover it because they do not have enough power and sometimes even have to accept something that is not fair. So kumbaga, kung sa totoong buhay, nangyayari talaga yung ganito na kapag ka mayaman ka, no, nakagawa ka ng kasalanan sa iyong lipunan, pwede niyong i-cover up yun. Kasi pwedeng bayaran mo na lang, o pwedeng mismo yung nasa judge, or, kumbaga yung under ng case nyo is maging kasundo mo na or gawa mo ng paraan paano makukuha ang loob niya and balik ka rin yung kaso. So talagang nangyayari siya sa buhay, sa totoong buhay. While yung mga mahirap, they are not do the same kasi kumbaga kailangan nila ng power ng money as well and alam naman natin na kapag marami kang pera magiging madali na lang sa'yo ang lahat, no, unless kung may konsensya ka and ayun, yung konsensya mo talagang magmamatter siya until the end of the your reflection. So ayun yung pinaka naging highlighted ideas dito sa last part na to. And now we will proceed for the conclusion of the Prince and the Pauper story. So based on the analysis of the Prince and the Pauper, it can be seen that there is a really social stratification that is happening in the world and in the novel of the Prince and the Pauper. So many people from the lower ranks, they are called the powerless, and the powerful are the upper rank. So they are yung mga lower ranks, no, they still face the unequal treatment and discrimination coming from the upper ranks. So with the power also caused many suffering of the lower ranks. So upper ranks have more power to control many things like politics, social and sabotage the people from the lower uh, ranks and with less power, no? So this makes people from the lower ranks, as depicted in the Prince and the Pauper, commit crimes such as stealing. No, yung ginagawa nga ni Tom Canty na inutos sa kanya ng tatay niya kasi nga greedy ito. So, however, no, we need uh, to remember that not all people from the upper ranks are bad. Just like Tom Canty, nangangarap siya na maging isang king and he just step up on that na nakaranas siya ng pagiging king and that is why hindi lahat ng mahirap na tao sa society ay mga masasama. Kagaya nung nasabi ko kanina na hindi naman lahat ng mahihirap ay mga magnanakaw na lang, gumagawa ng masama. Yung iba, they want to live their life fair from their kapwa. So, basically, we need to treat people equally without knowing or without judging them based on their backgrounds and looks. Kasi, meron naman talagang totoong mga tao sa society na maayos ang tunghin sa buhay at plano sa buhay kahit anong hirap nila sa um, kalagayan nila. And that's all of my report in the Prince and the Pauper. And then this is the references that we use in terms of analyzing and understanding the story of the Prince and the Pauper.
Thank you for listening The Prince and the Pauper.